Hello and thank you for joining us on Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. I'm Naja Atutujani. Remember that this broadcast is being streamed live on our website, nta.ng/live, and all our social media handles displayed on the screen. On Thursday last week, the Nigeria International Economic Partnership Forum was held in Manhattan, New York, in the middle of the most important international event of the year, the United Nations General Assembly. The forum was enormously popular, attracting some 500 guests and delegates, almost double the expected number.
The forum was a resounding success, a clear indication of investor confidence in Nigeria. Nigeria is the biggest economy in Africa and seeks to raise GDP to $965 billion, almost $1 trillion, by 2027. Under President Muhammadu Buhari, the nation has recorded marked progress in highways construction, bridges, railway, power, electrification, and capacity addition, airports, and their modernization. As the president spoke, making the determination of his government to open more and more sectors of the economy to the private sector, a particular participant stoned not a few when he announced that he manages pension funds of $1.3 trillion, money well in excess of Nigeria's current GDP, 5 times over. Over $1 billion worth of deals benefiting Nigeria and her partners were signed at the forum, including a $1.3 billion investment from Sun Africa for a new solar energy project, $70 million ring fence, and Nobles Green Energy for a new biodiversity project, strategic finance and support for a new refinery in the Niger Delta announced by Honeywell, and a major philanthropic investment in data for Nigerian schools announced by Airtel Africa that will be setting up internet connection for 100 schools each year for 5 years running. A highlight of the event was the presidential luncheon, which saw guest of honor President Muhammadu Buhari, joined by CEOs and senior executives from some of the largest and most prominent American and African
The Senate
companies.
is considering a bill which seeks to separate the office of the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria from that of chairman of the board of the bank. The bill, sponsored by Chairman Senate Committee on Rules and Business, Senator Sadiq Umar, argues that for Nigeria's apex bank to operate in line with global standards and ensure transparency, the leadership of the board must be independent of the governor's office. The bill received divergent opinions.
The objective of this bill includes 1. To enable the appointment of a person other than the governor as the chairman of the board of the CBN. 2. To divest the board of the powers of determining and fixing the salaries and allowances of its members. And 3. To consider and approve the annual budget of the bank, which lies solely with the National Assembly.
I know in the corporate world that the chief executive of an entity can't be the chairman of that entity.
That we should really allow this bill to go for public hearing. We'll get more information and then they will be properly convinced. But I've given them enough reason to believe that this bill should be allowed to go for second reading.
You can check. Any governor of the central bank is both the chairman of the bank and the chief executive. From Federal Reserve Bank to Bank of China, to Bank of England, to Bank of Canada. So Nigeria should not be different.
We would recommend that this thing be stepped down so that we'll be given step down so we can have more materials, to be able to make an informed judgment. Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives observes that there is visible improvement of the general state of security on the Abuja-Kaduna road. However, stalled reconstruction work on the road has led to gridlock, which sometimes leaves commuters stranded for days. The House, in response to a matter of urgent public importance from Representative Garba Detti, is urging the Ministry of Works to direct the contractor handling the project to immediately resume and complete the reconstruction, especially the stretch between Jere and Kaduna, which they note will ease the hardship of commuters on the road, a major link between the northern and southern parts of Nigeria. House members also urged the federal government to deploy security personnel to secure resources and equipment mobilized for the project. The present administration has made huge investment in the armed forces, which remains the highest in history, evident in the procurement of sophisticated, robust and technologically advanced weapons, as well as logistics to enhance the nation's defense architecture. The Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, said this while presenting a convocation lecture at the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna. Suleiman Rika Chukung reports.
The 20th convocation is a tradition maintained by the military university, leveraging experience of experts to speak to critical national and global issues as they affect Nigeria's security architecture and the foreign policy.
We are the ones pushing back on the forces of terrorism.
Professor Ibrahim Gambari said Nigerians both in the security system and other sectors must summon the courage, innate quality to articulate the necessary responses that will ensure the country is not wrong-footed, but find itself able to be the primary generator of national security and defense.
The military and the security forces have gained the upper hand, and the idea is for them to continue to push so that the war against criminality, against terrorism will be won. And Mr. President has promised that by God's grace, by the end of this year, we will have began to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Commandant of the Academy, Major General Ibrahim Manu Yusuf, explained that in view of the uncertainties in the global arena, the nation must rely on the brilliance of its training, in which the Academy has reviewed its curriculum to meet the contemporary defense and security imperatives.
National security, defense, and diplomacy in an evolving world order is a topical and stimulating intervention in this uncertain period of global security threats.
The lecture is prelude to the graduation and passing out of the 69 regular course cadets of the Nigerian Defense Academy. Suleiman Rigachkun, NTA News.
On the political scene, the Tinubu-Shettima Presidential Campaign Council has adjusted the timetable for activities scheduled to commence from Wednesday, September 28. In a statement, the Director General of the Campaign Council and Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, says the decision is to ensure everybody is carried along as the list is being expanded for the APC family and other stakeholders of the party to be wholly involved. Peace walk and prayers to officially kick off campaigns for the 2023 presidential elections were initially slated for Wednesday, 27 September 2022. The statement adds that a new date and timetable of events and activities will be announced soon. Meanwhile, the gubernatorial candidate of the Social Democratic Party in Rivers State, Senator Magnus Abi, has unveiled his running mate for the 2023 elections. Dr. Patricia Ogbonnaya is the running mate, while Senator Wilson Ake is Director General of the campaign organization. Emmanuel Lenny reports.
The formal unveiling of the deputy governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, is strategic, not only to the party, but to the final outcome of the 2023 governorship election in Rivers State. To the governorship candidate of the SDP in the state, Senator Magnus Abe, the choice of Dr. Patricia Ogbonnaya is a conscious move to add value to the ticket. Dr. Patricia Ogbonnaya is a retired permanent secretary with about 35 years of public service and cognate classroom experience. She is a former council member of 4 state-owned tertiary institutions, former controller of NECO, member of the 2014 National Conference. She is the Ada Ekpeye and Princess of Orashi region.
She's a woman of great character, great loyalty, great commitment, God-fearing, and most importantly, she's a mother with passion for people.
National Chairman said I should tell you he's very delighted. When our credentials, when our profile was made available to him and he went over it, he was very, very pleased.
To the deputy governorship candidate, Dr. Patricia Ogbonnaya, her decision to work with the SDP is in recognition of the pedigree of the governorship candidate of the party, Senator Magnus Abe, who she says is eminently qualified for the position.
So here is a man that well equipped. The Excellency incoming, I pledged before the people here today, and I said like Naomi and Ruth. Yeah, God. I mean, my God.
The event also featured the unveiling of the Director General of the SDP campaign organization, Senator Wilson Ake, in Port Harcourt. Emmanuel Lene, NTA News.
Meanwhile, under the Electoral Act 2022, campaigns are expected to commence by both political parties and their candidates 150 days to the election. The provisions of the Electoral Act are specific on the conduct of the political parties and candidates during election. Delia Tumbi of our Judiciary Desk takes a look at sections 92 and 93 of the Electoral Act as they affect campaigns.
Section 92 of the Electoral Act 2022 deals with the prohibition of certain conducts during political campaigns. One of such prohibited conducts is the tainting of political slogans or campaign with abusive language capable of injuring religious, ethnic, tribal, or sectional feelings. The law also bars the use of abusive, intemperate, slanderous language or innuendos designed to provoke violent reaction or emotions during electioneering. Section 92, subsection 3 also prohibits political campaigns in places designated for religious worship, police station, and public offices.
You don't use or fund the embers of religion in the name of obtaining or trying to woo supporters to get votes. The essence of political campaign is to talk to the people, sell out your policies and the objectives of your party.
Political parties and their candidates must operate within the law. Campaigns are not made just to destroy the integrity of your opponents. No. Campaigns are supposed to be based on issues that your party, if it succeeds in the election, these are the issues that you believe and programs that you believe you will be able to deliver.
Or guiding to us against the idea of campaign that should not have abusive languages, innuendos, slogans that are aimed at tarnishing the other person's image.
The use of masquerades during political campaigns, either by a political party or candidate, is also outlawed. Section 93 of the Act also bars political parties and their candidates from the employment or training of any person with the aim of displaying physical force during campaigns.
A political party and its candidates should not employ the use of force. And that is why sometimes you know that in some instances you find that some private security guards are used during campaigns. The law doesn't allow that.
Electoral Act 2022, which repealed the Electoral Act 2010, is intended to bring sanity and order to the way and manner political campaigns are to take place in Nigeria from the 28th of September when it starts.
Sections 92 and 93 of the Electoral Act 2022 also provided appropriate punishments for the contravention of the provisions under the Act. All these provisions, according to the legal practitioners, are geared towards peaceful campaigns. In Abuja, Dele Atumbi, NTA News.
This is Nationwide on the network service of the NTA. Let's now join Adiola in Lagos to give us details of how the NDLEA destroyed the largest seizure of cocaine and other reports. Adiola?
Thank you, Najatu. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency will make things tougher for drug barons and cartels that refuse to back out of a illicit trade. Director of Prosecution and Legal Services of the agency, Sunday Joseph, said this during the destruction exercise of the largest cocaine seizure in Badagry. Going by an order obtained from the Federal High Court in Lagos for the public destruction of a consignment, senior officers of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency led key stakeholders to the destruction site of the 1.8 tons illicit substance. Director of Prosecution and Legal Services, Sunday Joseph, said the sheer volume of the drug haul, with street value put at more than 194 billion naira, speaks volume about the extent of the nefarious activities of the drug underworld. He noted that this achievement should spur Nigerians to support NDLEA in the renewed war against illicit drugs. The director added that out of the 1.8 tons seizure, 1,828 blocks of the cocaine will be crushed and set ablaze, while the remnant will be secured for the purpose of prosecution of the suspects who were brought to witness the procedure and sign the certificate of destruction. And still talking about illicit activities, the fight against smuggling activities has taken another dimension, with the Nigeria Customs Service leveraging on the technical support from the Comptroller General at ensuring that acts of economic sabotage are totally nipped in the bud. The acting controller of the Federal Operations Unit Zone A, while reflecting on the seizure of more than 80,000 liters of petrol valued at 13.7 million naira at Baji Badagry and the borderline, lauded this support, which enabled the service mobilize 18 operational vehicles to stop the illegal export of the commodity to neighboring countries. Abolade Salami reports.
Baji, Ayedu and Badagry are not just communities along the river fringe, but remote outposts where smuggling thrive. It is a disadvantage to the people, but again for smugglers who capitalized on this to perpetrate their illegal trade. In fact, illegal export of petroleum products is a major challenge along this axis. This scene paints a picture of desperate abandonment, with some of the items still stockpiled in the means of conveyance. The acting controller of the Federal Operations Unit Zone A, who was at the scene, was obviously baffled by the ingenuity of concealment, which is a sharp contrast from the conventional method of being ferried in jerry cans. He said 60 drums of petrol were taken to the Greek side, waiting to be moved out of the country, until officers of the Federal Operations Unit Zone A engaged in exchange of firepower with the smugglers who abandoned the goods.
Our country subsidized petroleum products for us for our own use. And then some recalcitrant people who believe that is the way they can always survive still believe it is to shortchange the nation as well. It's criminal.
Although investigation is still ongoing, but the customs said most of the petroleum products were gotten from filling stations along the axis.
And that will tell us for government to be able to analyze and take statistics of how many filling stations that are supposed to get close to the borderline.
The customs has been trailing consignment for a week, which is made possible by its partnership with the community. It is a trend signaling greater positivity, as the acting controller said. There is now a reduction in the number of attacks on customs officers from host communities. In Lagos, Abolade Salami, NTA News.
Those are the stories making the rounds in Lagos. And do not forget to follow this news broadcast live on our website at nta.ng/live and on our other social media handles displayed on your screen for updates. Nationwide will continue with Mina in Enugu after this timeout. To stay with us.
Good evening and welcome to Enugu. Possible ways to move Nigeria out of some of its present challenges form the basis of discussion at a leadership forum organized in Enugu by the Medical Research and Humanitarian Society. Uchenna Nameli reports.
Dwelling on the theme of the event, leadership in modern times, youths bridging the gap, a guest speaker noted that putting the right leadership in place as well as harnessing the huge potentials in nations' youth would go a long way in putting the country on the right track. He urged the youth to put their acts together and equip themselves with leadership skills and techniques that would help them perform as future leaders.
The leadership skills that you have to develop as a leader is to carry your team from the current position where they are to that desired future position. Part of leadership is to be able to think outside the box and see how you can create a number of financing models to be able to continue to lead. Again, you have an objective. So your job as a leader is continue to be creative and find creative way of surmounting the challenges.
The event featured presentation of awards to some deserving personalities in Enugu. Uchenna Namele, NTA News.
The chairman post Primary Schools Management Board, Enugu State, Dr. Mrs. Favor Ugwai, wants teachers to brace up to the challenges of raising professionals with character and competence. She was speaking at a workshop organized for teachers in Enugu and Amwani educational zone of the state. Chimaruke Ugu reports.
It was the turn of teachers in Enugu and Abani zone to tap from the wealth of knowledge to improve in their duty of tutoring students in the ongoing PPSMB capacity building workshop for teachers in Enugu as they prepare for another academic section. Some scholars in the education sector took turns to lecture these trainers on how best to be good ambassadors and representatives in their leadership and professional duty handed to them by parents on upbringing.
All leaders are learners. The moment you stop learning, you stop leading. Leadership development is not a quick trip. It's not like we are going to the market. It's something you build over time.
The chairman of the board reminded them of the double role of teaching and parenting.
Teachers have been empowered to go back to their respective schools and carry out their duties diligently and with the fear of God, knowing that every good work will surely be rewarded by the government and by God himself.
We have equipped them. All the while we were getting feedback from the schools. And this formed what the basis for the workshop.
For these teachers, they promise to implement all they have learned in their various schools.
The roles of teachers in modern day teaching and learning has just been, reminded us. So we were refreshed, our memories were refreshed, and also we learned new trends.
The workshop featured headcount for all teachers in Enugu and Abani zone. In Enugu, Chimaruke Ugu, NTA News.
And that's a bit from here. It's back to Naijatu in Abuja for the continuation of Nationwide.
Thank you, Minan. Welcome back to our Abuja studios. We're talking natural disasters now, notably floods, and the latest findings on floods in parts of Kogi State show an increase in the level of apprehension among residents of Lokoja and other affected communities arising from further consequences of the water released from the Lagdo Dam in Cameroon and other dams in Niger State. Francis Udojo reports.
This is Ganaja leading to the heart of Lokoja.
It was just few days back I reported the possibility of water overflowing the Lokoja major road, which connects about 9 states of the Federation, including the Federal Capital Territory. Now, the reality is here as vehicles are stuck in the river.
Houses submerged, the road cut off, with commuters coming from within and faraway states caught in the web. The use of boat and canoe is now the alternative with only few life jackets.
I'm coming from Enugu State down to Abuja. Unfortunately, we made this water here, so there's no way for us to pass.
The challenge we are facing now is the lone life jackets, and they are manual boats more than the engine one.
The only alternative route through the 500 housing unit, Lokoja, is in a deplorable state. The major road from Natako Junction leading to Kabawa and Jakura Mabu have also been cut off with valuables destroyed. A senior citizen, David Ayeniba, retiree from the civil service and now horticulturist, built his house around the Jakura area in 1996. Unfortunately, he still lives in the nightmare of the 2012 flood and repeated scenario.
The business is okay for me, but since I have flood in, I think, 2012, in fact, I did not find it very easy at all.
Lokoja, the Kogi State capital, is not the only place affected. Other local government areas like Ida, Koto, Ofu have also been affected by the natural disaster.
From Lokoja, Francis Udojo, NTA News.
Meanwhile, delivering disaster aid to victims on time not only restores lost hope, but also lifts the spirit of those affected. Abdullahi Umar Ilalu reports that the prompt response to flood victims in Kebbi State by the Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission is therefore timely.
Providing relief after a disaster not only sustains life, it maintains hope for the future and the potential for full economic recovery. This informed the decision of Hyperdeck to provide edible and non-edible relief materials to the over 10,000 flood victims in Dundee, Shanga, Kokobesa, and Bagudo local government areas of Kebbi State, while those with health challenges received free medical treatment. The managing director of the commission, Abubakar Sadiq Yalwa, said the gesture was to alleviate the plight of the victims, adding that they will sustain the program to the riverine communities in line with its mandate.
Check, give them medical attention, because in every flooded community, there is always a number of diseases and intentions that are required to be addressed medically. And we have used the opportunity to call on the community to always avoid staying on floodplains.
In their separate remarks, traditional and other communities leaders commended Hyperdeck for its development initiatives, particularly in rural areas, urging the Commission to sustain the good work. Some of the beneficiaries, while promising to make judicious use of the relief materials, appreciated the Commission for bringing succor to them at their difficult moment. Cash was also doled out to the victims who recently lost their farms' input and houses to flood across the state. Abdullah Omar Ilalu, NTA News.
Meanwhile, former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo has inaugurated the 29-kilometer Etinandon-Eyo Road in Akwa Ibom State. Susan Esu reports.
The 29-kilometer road stretches from Etinan through Ona to the east-west road with 2 bridges and spur from Bioto Ekpene Ntem to Ikorokpan. A once impassable road for many years has become a sight to behold just as former Nigerian President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo urges indigents of the area to take advantage of the road and expand their businesses.
When we have a road like this, going through the rural area, there must also be what the people will do to ensure that they make maximum use. They challenge us so much. How do we pass through there? If we go to a point, we need to excavate more than 6 feet deep. The whole of this area, I can't even describe how it was. But today, when we go through, Baba told me that you will complete this road.
Messages were presented by the paramount ruler of the area, house member, and others. High point was inauguration of the 29-kilometer road at Mpok Bridge in Ona local government area by former President Olusegun Obasanjo. From Ona local government area, Susan Esu, NTA News.
Let's now join Zenret in our Jos Network Center for more reports. Hello, Zenret.
Thank you, Najatu, and welcome to Jos. The Hydroelectric Power Producing Areas Development Commission has provided relief to 16 communities in Plateau State who were recently affected by flood. Cameron Kaneng-Ladoja has details.
At a meeting with victims, the commission reveals that farmlands were washed away and 66 houses in 16 communities of Bassa, Bokos and Birkinladi local government areas of Plateau State were submerged. Worried by the devastation, Hyperdeck provided 66 bags of rice, maize and millet, 264 mattresses, as well as 666 mosquito nets to beneficiaries. The rest are roofing sheets and toiletries.
I want to thank the management of Hyperdeck for considering our plight and providing all these relief materials.
These items really go a long way in helping the victims. So we want to thank Hyperdeck.
Representatives of the affected communities and the Plateau State Emergency Management Agency thanked Hyperdeck for the timely intervention and providing solutions to some of their challenges.
We expect them to be able to utilize this thing to the best of our ability.
Hyperdeck within 3 days came up with this package to help ameliorate the sufferings of the people of this community, which is its core mandate. That's to impact positively on the communities that reside within the hydroelectricity generation communities.
In Jos, Cameron Kaneng-Ladoja, NTA News.
Plateau State government says its commitment to strengthen the health sector is to achieve health coverage for its citizens. This was at a partners forum in Jos. Ijoma Ezemina reports.
These participants are here to address healthcare challenges occasioned by changing demographics and rampant cases of chronic diseases. In tackling the challenges, the State Ministry of Health says additional investment will be needed, particularly in the local government areas where health infrastructure remains inadequate, hence the need for the partners to come in.
We want to know how far have they gone and what are the challenges they are facing. How can the state government help them surmount those challenges?
Some of the partners gave an update of their interventions so far.
We support HIV case finding, that's testing, linkage to treatments, that's HIV treatments, retention on treatments, and to ensure that every patient on treatments has his or her viral load test done and is virally suppressed.
The giant strides we did in that regard is, engaging community pharmacists, having an MOU with them so that they redeem any stockouts. So if there's a hospital that does not give you a medication, you just go to that pharmacy, sort yourself out. You don't have to pay. I think probably just pay 10% out of your medication bill.
A 5-man committee was then inaugurated to come up with possible ways of achieving their target. In Jos, Ijoma Ozemena, NTA News.
And that's a package from Jos. Abubakar in Maiduguri will bring us more reports after this break. Do stay with us.
Thanks for staying with us on Nationwide up to this moment. And this is Maiduguri Network Center. Let's move on now. Towards providing a conducive environment for effective teaching and learning across institutions, Borno State Government has donated state-of-the-art facilities of 81 million naira to the Civil Engineering Department of University of Maiduguri. The support, meant to enhance the quality of civil engineering graduates, was presented to the Vice Chancellor of the University by Commissioner for Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Engineer Babagana Mustafa Malumbi. Here are more details of the story.
Modern teaching and learning facilities not only promote excellence, but necessary for course and faculty accreditation in universities and other tertiary institutions. The donation by Borno State Government to the Civil Engineering Department of University of Maiduguri came as a fulfillment of a pledge by Governor Zulum to provide the basic tools for learning. Presenting the equipment to the Vice Chancellor, University of Maiduguri, on behalf of Borno State Governor, Commissioner for Higher Education, Science, Technology and Innovation, Engineer Babagana Mustafa Malumbi, said the gesture is part of an effort to enhance training and retraining of staff and students, and by extension, other learners in the field of engineering. Engineer Babagana Malumbi emphasized the need for proper utilization and maintenance of the equipment, stressing that Borno State Governor is ever ready to provide necessary facilities needed by the university to improve knowledge of staff and students in various fields.
Our expectation is the proper utilization of the equipment by the staff and the student.
Vice Chancellor, University of Maiduguri, Professor Aliu Shugaba, acknowledged the determination and commitment of Governor Zulum towards repositioning the education sector in Borno despite daunting challenges, saying the governor, being an educationist, knows the value of education.
They have capabilities to maintain whatever kind of equipment. They have studied the various components of the equipment.
Professor Aliu Shugaba assured of continuous working relationship between the University of Maiduguri and the state government, as well as effective utilization and proper maintenance of the donated items.
Away from that now to tell you that Borno State Government is sustaining empowerment of victims of insurgency from fishing communities with fishing gear and other facilities to revive the once promising agricultural practice with huge economic potentials. The empowerment exercise was done through the Inclusive Basic Service Delivery and Livelihood Empowerment Integrated Program. Umaru Kirawa will now bring us more details.
For more than a century, people around the Lake Chad region are known for farming and fishing activities, which was later devastated due to the retrogressive activities of Boko Haram insurgents in the region. Borno State Government, through the Inclusive Basic Service Delivery and Livelihood Empowerment Integrated Program, a multi-sectoral project, is now taking a bold step of reviving the age-old tradition of the people by giving them canoe and other fishing equipment. Overall chairman of the fishing community, Moduslum, and other beneficiaries appreciated the government for what they described as walking the talk, assuring to put the items provided into good use for the betterment of the nation. Procurement officer of the program, Engineer Abubakar Saad, livelihood sector lead of IPSIP, Ayuba Umar, and senior special advisors to Governor Zulum, as well as other stakeholders, enjoined the beneficiaries to use the gesture for the overall development of the nation. The intervention to selected 120 beneficiaries, according to the general manager of Ruwasa and coordinator of IPSIP, Dr. Muhammad Musa Aliyu, is part of the stabilization program of the government geared towards rebuilding a better Borno.
We believe, by the grace of God, their means of livelihood will significantly improve.
The distribution exercise also had training and support on homestay fishing production to women, as well as other assistance to the fishermen. In Maiduguri, Umaru Kirawa, NTA News.
And those are the latest stories. For now, from Maiduguri, let us at this point return to Najatu in Abuja for the rest of Nationwide.
Thank you. Tools and techniques meant for improving productivity are to be extended to the informal sector. The initiative by the National Productivity Center is to encourage small and medium-scale entrepreneurs to double their contributions to the nation's gross domestic product, which is already above 65% of the country's GDP. About 100 productivity officers of the center are currently undergoing training in different endeavors which will impact the informal sector to continue stimulating economic growth and promote a flexible labor market and productive activities.
We are going to perform better with the knowledge we will gain from here to impact positively to the Nigerian populace that we are working for.
Concepts like efficiency, effectiveness, competitiveness, innovation, even concepts like leadership. We're going to look at all that. And then after building through that, we're going to go into the issues of productivity and quality improvement as it relates to national economic growth and development.
There's a program we call Productivity and Quality Improvement Program. This is an intervention program whereby we go to these SMEs. We sit down with them, identify their productivity problem, and along with their staff, which we form into productivity and quality teams, we now address the productivity problem. We have signed an MOU with NASIMA, NASI, where in my office last week, we are equally signing an MOU to make sure that we go into this organization.
The pool of officers are to immediately move into the informal sector to respond to any challenges of low productivity. As the saying goes, no nation can develop without active participation and contribution of women. It is on this premise that the National Action for Women agenda, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency and other partners, have unveiled a women's engagement program in Abuja ahead of the 2023 general election. Kenneth Nanim reports.
Globally, women are taking leading roles in various socio-economic and political endeavors on the local and international scene. With the 2023 general elections approaching, it becomes imperative to galvanize women towards active participation in politics and governance. This explains why state directors of the National Orientation Agency and National Action for Women agenda across the 36 states and the FCT are converged on Abuja to mainstream issues that will adequately prepare them on the critical role to play.
We are going to mobilize 5 million women for one Nigeria to discuss peace. We want the women to be involved. We are ready.
When women participate in peace-building processes, the resulting agreement is more durable and better implemented.
The program is also to provoke conversations on inclusive governance amongst key players.
We are into orientating women for them to come out freely and defend themselves. Even in the rural areas, they can now stand and fight for elections.
Fully equipped with what it takes, women impact at the polls will no longer be business as usual, the participants say. Kenneth Nani, NTA News.
From the lens of inclusion, development partners in collaboration with the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities are prompting the conversation on the best approaches to transforming the lives of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. Gufa Ngwani reports.
Campaign for 10% inclusiveness at all strata for persons with disabilities is gaining momentum, fueled by contributions from development partners at this inaugural meeting on inclusion.
To also ensure that persons with disability,
development partners give scorecard of the progress made over the years for persons with disabilities.
One that is of note is the Inclusion Works that has just closed out.
Within the World Bank, the disability inclusion agenda has become one of the core things that we have to mainstream and keep in mind.
Where all people with disabilities at all stages of their lives are engaged, empowered, and able to exercise their rights.
Over 80% of the disability community today in Nigeria are living within the grassroots. These are people that need to feel the impact of whatever commitment the government and our development partners can
I want to thank Mr. Lalu for accepting to post a person with disability who will be the interpreter on the minister's team, and a permanent person in the permanent secretary's office who will continue to interpret and even help in writing reports. We want to set example from home.
The overall aim of the meeting is to ensure that the needs of persons with disabilities are fully met. In Abuja, Gufan Ugwanyi, NTA News.
To counter the growing challenges of drug and human trafficking in Nigeria, critical actors in substance and human trafficking prevention are equipping law enforcement agents with requisite knowledge on how to detect the emerging tactics pushing the global twin evils. Elizabeth Omorui, who was at the Drug and Human Trafficking Prevention Workshop, reports on recommendations.
Substance abuse and human trafficking, though lucrative, but are illegal businesses nations are grappling with in recent times. Data by NAPTIP from 2019 to 2022 revealed that 61% of human trafficking in Nigeria happens internally, and statistics by the NDLEA show that no fewer than 29.4 million Nigerians abuse psychoactive substances and other dangerous drugs. The burden of these activities on family, society and government informed this workshop.
Human traffickers use this as a bait to earn good living. They capitalize on substance abuse disorder to promise their victims full and constant supply of illegal drugs in exchange for sexual and labor exploitation.
Peer pressure, poor parental guidance, and lack of self-esteem were some of the factors identified responsible for the twin evil.
Every facet of the society must take ownership. Hence, the need for greater community involvement by building strong partnerships with all sectors of the society.
Advocacy for drug testing, frequent training of law enforcement agents on tactics by traffickers, and stiffer punishment on drug and human trafficking were some of the recommendations made. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
Up next is Sports Update with Gift George.
The Super Eagles of Nigeria will face the Desert Fox of Algeria in an international friendly match Tuesday at the Olympic Stadium, Oran, Algeria. The two teams are building up for the 2023 African Cup of Nations qualifiers after failing to qualify for the World Cup. The Algerian-Nigerian match comes up by 8 p.m. Nigerian time.
I have good players, I have a good squad, and we've got to fight for the good results.
In women's football, Nigeria's under-17 female side, the Flamingos, have arrived Turkey for a 10-day training tour ahead of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in India. Who play some friendly matches in Turkey before heading to India for the 7th edition of the FIFA Women's Under-17 World Cup. Still on football, the Higher Institutions Football League, HIFL, has continued in its objective of providing a platform for Nigerian students to showcase their football talents as they pursue their academic careers. The collegiate competition, which began in 2018, featured about 60 schools at the 2022 edition, which ended at the Yaba College of Technology. In the finals, Kogi State University became the first state-owned institution to win the tournament after the KSU Steelers beat Federal University Oye Ekiti Dazzlers by 3-1 to emerge champions. To water sports, the Aquatics Federation of Nigeria is holding a 5-day coaching seminar and training for lifeguards. This is to ensure safety and security in the sport. About 42 coaches are taking part in the event at the swimming pool of the Teslim Balogun Stadium, Lagos. It is to ensure that coaches get certified as they keep abreast on the latest techniques in the sport.
And you also learn how to resuscitate, CPR, the practice of the first aid. Immediately you bring out a drowning person from the water.
To boxing, the 122nd edition of the Lagos Boxing Show, held at the Teslim Balogun Stadium, showcased more female boxers and the young ones. An intriguing aspect is that some of the young boxers had their parents piloting affairs as their coaches.
They hear my voice, with a pick box like my own.
With Sports Update, Gift George, NTA News.
sports update concludes Nationwide. Thanks for watching. Remember to keep supporting NTA's campaign against rape and rapists.
Michelle Bachelet once said, "A better democracy is a democracy where women do not only have the right to vote,